Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We welcome you to the CII first edition of SummitFX, being organized in partnership with Ministry of Information and Broadcasting and Government of Karnataka. We now begin our next session claimed the studio at home working remotely in this COVID scenario, future of distributed production. May I welcome our esteemed panelist, Mr. Andrew Brown, Regional Director, Brigadisi, Mr. Kumar Chandrasekharan, Head of Production, Technical Animation and Games.
Hello.
Technical Solutions Manager, Autodesk, ME. Supervisor, Redefine. May I also welcome our moderator, Mr. Shaji Thomas, Head of Technology, NPC Film, NPC Episode. Over to you, Mr. Shaji Thomas. Request you to kindly moderate the session. Thank you.
Thank you, Rakhi, for the introduction. And thank you all, everybody who has joined this session. And sorry, we got 4 minutes late because of some technical glitches. I'm thinking we'll make it over with an interesting session. So hello, everybody, and welcome to CII Summit FX 2020, the event where we are bringing the biggest content makers and solution providers face-to-face with live audience. My guests today in this panel are the ones whom I would call the stars of 2020. Half a year has passed and these dynamic stars had been instrumental running this business operations excel during the COVID crisis. That's our topic for today's discussion, the studio at home, working remotely in COVID scenario, future of distributed production. Let's start with a brief intro. In the panel, we have Viral Thakur, Creative Director and VFX Supervisor for Redefine India. He holds a lot of credit supervising many Bollywood stars like speaking. Welcome, Viral. Can I request everybody to mute, please? Thank you. So with us, we also have Kumar Chandrasekharan. Kumar is a joint Head of Production for Technical Animation and Games. And in his current role, he oversees the entire gaming division while jointly overseeing the animation production. We also have Andrew Brown, EME Regional Director for TerraDC. Andrew has an experience of over 30 years in IT industry, and currently in TerraDC, in his current role, he leads a dynamic enterprise team that supports all graphic-intensive vertical market throughout Europe, Middle East, Africa, and India. I hope I'm right on that. We also have Sumit Shetty, Technical Solution Manager, MNE, Autodesk India and SAC. In his 11 years in Autodesk, he had been in various diversified roles, helping clients optimize and building workflows. So let's begin the session. Andrew, let me start with you. Firstly, thank you for having a technology which we could all leverage and enable work from home. If I'm assuming it right, TerraDC 2020 sales target wouldn't have been the same where you're sitting now, and probably you wouldn't have anticipated the scale which you had to deal during this time. Can you share some details on about your technologies and how you had been experiencing throughout this year? Andrew, are you there?
Hear me now?
Yeah, we can. Thank you.
And I think that phrase, "Can you hear me now?" about sums up 2020 so far, I think. So thank you for the time to be here and to be part of this panel. I think it's pretty first, just want to touch on for those who are listening and seeing that what TerraDC and who TerraDC are. So TerraDC developed our display protocol called PC over IP. So effectively what PC over IP allows you to do is securely visualize remote workstations. But the key aspect to it is not only do we allow you to gain access to remote workstations, be those in a data center, on-prem, be those in the cloud, or be those workstations still physically sitting under a desk. The whole idea behind our protocol is it delivers to the users what we refer to as under the desk experience. So the user really shouldn't know any different from connecting remotely into a workstation as if they were just sitting at that desk with that workstation. So yeah, as you can imagine, 2020 opened with a bit of a bang in about March. March the 23rd, if I recall the day exactly, certainly from a UK perspective, is when we had our first lockdown. And what we saw was a massive increase in demand for working from home. And I think the initial phase that we went through, and it's pretty interesting talking about these phases, the first phase that we saw was very much a very tactical solution. So people were like, how do we get people working from home? How do we keep the wheels on the bus still moving? So we obviously had a lot of engagement, and certainly we've had a lot of engagement with Technicolor in the past and other big studios and other big studios, where I think with you guys, you were probably already ahead of the curve slightly in the sense that you already had remote workers and you had remote offices connecting into centralized data centers. But what we saw was a massive uptick in smaller studios where they were looking to say, okay, how do we get our artists connecting back through to workstations so we can continue with the work that we've actually got? And that's where we got really involved. So, yeah, I mean, it was a very exciting time in March and April and May, whilst most people were, I guess, sitting at home, and certainly in the UK on furlough and enjoying the lovely weather, we were flat out supporting our customers, which was really good. What we're seeing now is we're seeing a move into probably the second phase of what customers are looking at. Is this isn't a short-term fix now. People are now looking at what can they do for the next 6, 12, 18 months. I think we're all understanding that probably the pandemic, and maybe the pandemic is easing slightly, but COVID as a potential threat to worldwide health is still very much at the forefront of news. And I think also what the working from home, I guess the working from home period at the start of March, April sort of did for customers was it accelerated some stuff that they were already looking at. So it accelerated the ability for users to work from home. And it has addressed a lot of other issues. It's addressed the ability around commuting into offices. It's allowed businesses to engage with staff that don't necessarily have to reside within a 20, 30-mile radius of the studio. It has allowed them to look at probably, 21st century technology to say, how do we actually now, moving forward, engage with our workforce? How do we make it easier for them to work? How do we make it easier for them to work from basically work anywhere at any time? And that's what we've really seen now. And what we're now seeing is companies really starting to embrace that and say, okay, right, pandemic's sort of not done, but lockdown's still here. We've got over that initial phase, but now how do we make that work for the business? How do we allow the solutions that we're putting in place today to fix the working from home scenario actually work for us long term? And that's really what we're seeing. I think some of the challenges we've seen over this 6-month period is the realization for a lot of people that their home network or their internet connection isn't as robust as they may feel it to be. I think that's probably the biggest, for us or any mechanism of delivery, we're only as good as the network that we deliver across. So we do rely on having a reasonably good network connection. However, we will always try and deliver the best content where possible. But if you've got a user connecting on a very low bandwidth, very unstable connection, there's very little we can do about that. So we have seen people, I guess, rushing to improve their home network connections. And that is important moving forward anyway. So some of the areas that we've seen have affected users remotely working, just connecting across Wi-Fi. Wi-Fi is not a stable connection. And especially when you've got a whole home, everybody at home, you've got your children at home because they're not going to school, your wife may be working from home or your partner working from home as well. It does put a big strain on Wi-Fi. So we certainly recommend to artists who are very susceptible to things like latency to have a wired connection where possible. And we talk about latency. So one of the things we've noticed is that from an artist point of view, if their round-trip latency back to their corporate network is anything greater than 20, 25 milliseconds, they are going to struggle with just that latency, and especially when using things like Wacom tablets. So we do support, and we have developed some technology around that to overcome latency issues on the network. But so yeah, there's lots of things that we've learned, I think, and we've learned along with our customers of how to improve the delivery of, because again, all we're delivering from the remote workstation to the home user, we're just sending pixels. So from a security point of view, it's highly secure. It's only we're encrypting everything to AES 256 encryption. No data is leaving your data center or workstation. We are literally just turning the internet, I guess for a simple term, we're turning the internet connection into a very large HDMI cable. So yes, we've been, to answer, I guess, the original question, we've been pretty flat out, to say the least.
That's interesting. Thanks, Andrew. And you spoke about the vacuum thing, and the pressure sensitivity is something which initially was there, and with the new update coming in, that improved. So slowly, we are definitely seeing the interest rate and satisfaction of the artist improving. So that, and the solution is working, which is all good for us, and we all are here now. So
yeah, and I said, and we've seen a lot of take up. Yes, with visual effects, with graphic artists, with any high graphic intensity, but we're also moving into broadcast now. We've done a lot of stuff with video editing for broadcasters, a lot of stuff for just all verticals that require graphic intense applications. And to be fair as well, also other areas where it's just standard users. I think it's okay for a remote user just to be connecting in every now and then to their office through RDP. But if you suddenly sit in front of that RDP connection for 8 to 9 hours, you start getting eye strain. Because we built a lossless, and we support things like Microsoft TrueType and Adobe ClearType, then actually we can reduce that burden on the user's eyes as well. So, and that only increases productivity. Great.
Viral, maybe next I can go to you, and Kumar, please add on to that. How has it been your experience for the creative group for the work from home? So tell us some experience about how have you actually managed to solve the gap of creative skills, because creative is something which always had been told that when the supervision happens, the artist has to be next to the leads, next to the supervisors. Now with all the distance coming in through a lot of reviews happening with video conferencing, how are you able to tackle all that, the color accuracies and etc.?
Yeah. So I mean, like I said, it's just it was overwhelming. When this happened, the end of March, we all of us kind of got into it, and I think the other panelists would resonate to what I'm saying, and it was a similar experience for all of us. So as Indians, actually we immediately pounced onto the situation and tried to solve a lot of these issues and get the artists online as soon as possible. So we had redefined, worked similarly, and we took around, a month and a half to get everything, moving. Obviously, we are also using Adichie to kind of for our work from home, setup. I mean, immediately, honestly, for me, it was more, it was like an irony, because the moment we started, functioning, from work from home environment, we actually started getting more productive, and which was a great thing. I feel this entire environment, made us more disciplined as supervisors, as creative people. We actually started valuing time even more, as far as project planning, as far as our creative dailies are concerned, so we have our fixed timings as far as dailies is concerned. So creatively, honestly, we haven't really had any issue, because I can say this because we've delivered, during the lockdown, we've delivered a few Netflix shows, and this was like start to end, So it was a fascinating thing. Honestly, for me, it was fascinating that we can actually do this, being supervisors, and with the teams coming in, and with the way we've devised our setup, it just worked, and obviously there are a few issues, like you rightly said, and colors is one thing. Reviewing our stuff on say a Barco or a Christie, watching stuff in our preview theaters, because we're working with larger frame sizes for Netflix. So that was an issue. But now that things are opening up a bit, we've kind of managed to take up our shots till like 95%, and then finishing the 5% after viewing in our review theaters. So that's how we've solved that issue of ours. But having said that, to directly answer your question, Shaji, I think we we're really overwhelmed with the way we've set this up, and it's working fine for us. Honestly, thanks to TerraDT, we've kind of we are also now thinking that should we continue doing what we are doing, and honestly, even after we go back to our offices, I think I would love to kind of follow what we are doing as far as the discipline part of things is concerned. So yeah, it's worked great for us. I think Kumar could probably add something to that.
Tough to add to that, Avil. You pretty much said it all. But overall, I think so. It's a huge well done to all the artists, the teams all across the country, pretty much, because this is a myth which has been shattered. We never thought that work from home in what we do would actually be possible. Yes, like Andrew was saying, remote teams, yes, we've all connected with remote teams working somewhere else and have made this work. But with all our teams remote, without much planning, because this was done, this whole execution of putting people working from home was done over a very, very short period of time with minimal planning. The planning happened on the fly. So you had to basically improvise. And for that to have been successful to the extent it has been, because whenever I speak to various studios, and even with Technicolor as such, it has been extremely successful so far. But like Andrew said, it's now from a short sprint, it's become a longer road. So,
yeah, rightly said. Yeah, good.
Just to add something to that, I mean, like with this entire work from home scenario, we've got teams in like Vancouver, Montreal, London. In fact, we've got closer. As teams, we've in fact got closer. We're working across artists, cross platform, cross artists, and this never used to happen. I mean, because we used to behave like island teams, but now we've in fact got really closer, and the creativity, the productivity, the things have kind of just started increasing. So that's something which I wanted to add.
Right. And same the lines between a family and a working environment is also blurred, right? There's no limit to time. There's no limit. So as you rightly said, I think that there was definitely a myth that work from home is not made for and it doesn't work, right? The first thing was always the technology. That there's no technology which can make a call.
Yeah.
Creative challenge, and that's the time probably when they all came together, they all worked together. I've seen like creative and production artists and all working so closely with each other, helping each other's problem, understanding the other's problem and trying to help them, and they were so well present in that. It makes so sense.
Yeah, I think just sorry if I can just to add to that as well. I think what's really interesting that's happened with the whole working from home, and funny you mentioned about the fact the teams have come closer together. What we've got to do both internally within TerraDT and working with our customers. And I think this is a classic example. In January, we would probably have a conference call, or we'd have an email conference, but we'd never have video conferencing. Now, video conferencing seems to be the new norm, and the fact that people are quite willing to sit and share time in their own houses. I think that's in personality back into what was becoming a bit of a, emails going back and forth or team conversation. So I think that's really worked well, and I think the whole productivity thing is a really interesting area to look at. It's interesting to see where that is in 6 years. And what we've seen, I agree, we've seen within my own team internally within TerraDT, we've become much more productive. But what we've also done is we've started to carve out time during the week where we say, right, we're just going to have a coffee morning where we will just have a video conference. But the one thing we're not going to talk about is we're not going to talk about work. And that's actually, we're actually quite a remote team anyway, and that's actually brought our team much closer together. So I agree. I think there's, I think a lot of people think negatives. I think if you look at the positives, it works really, really well. And getting back to that life-work balance. And we're seeing people just generally happier. When I talk to want to go back to the office. So I think it's going to be really interesting what the next 6 months holds for us.
Very true.
Interesting. If there's a feedback coming from somewhere, can I request all the panelists to mute if you're not speaking? Thank you. Summit, when the pandemic actually hit us and when we were on a lockdown, I believe Autodesk came out with a lot of new solutions, a lot of new workflows, cloud-based workflows, which helped a lot of organizations, with a lot of studios and artists to do work from home more effectively. Can you talk a little about that? Yeah. So more or less, all our panelists have already spoken about how the pandemic affected everyone, and I still remember the initial days. The lockdown was not expected, and even if we knew it was, we nobody took it so seriously, and people used to make jokes out of the COVID and Corona and all, and things were very light. But then everything happened all of a sudden, and then there was no ways that any one of us could identify a way or a solution for a work from home scenario. But then luckily, as Viral and Kumar also mentioned, that everyone got together, the studios, the artists, everyone were like talking to each other, taking opinions, ideas, and on how to make things all right. Similarly, uh, one more thing which we all learned is to have a technology change like this. I think most of the studios would have taken 2 to 3 years, to actually implement these kind of changes. But I think all what happened was in just 1.5, 2 months, which is again a great thing. And it's not just media and entertainment, even schools, like, you've seen teachers who were like unaware of having Zoom calls and video calls and struggled for 10, 15 days. Kids enjoyed it, but then eventually they are very pro now. I can see them taking classes seamlessly. So it's all about adaptation, how you take it, how you accept it. So coming from the technology company Autodesk, we are everywhere. Like, we're not just into a media and entertainment space, but we are also into the AC and manufacturing space. So our responsibility increased on how can we help all our customers uh, in this work from home scenario. So the first thing what we did is we made sure that everyone gets their share of license when they're working from home. Uh, the biggest challenge, like, okay, most of the companies had their VPN set so that their licenses sits in the office network and they can still access it on their laptops or whatever devices they have at home. But then in case if they don't have a proper internet connection, which was a big challenge, so we also give a home use license. So the license is another copy of a same license for the home use. So that was made available, and you won't believe, I was busy doing licensing for a lot of customers, making sure that they have enough license for home use. So that was one thing. The second big thing what we did was our cloud-based solution. All our cloud-based solution, be it Fusion 360, BIM 360, all these cloud-based solutions was made free for all the customers across the globe. And it was made free for almost 3 months for everyone to use it, for all the people across their studio site. So be it a smaller studio to a bigger studio. Existing customers, for example, they have few set of licenses on Shotgun, could extend it to any level, to give an access to Shotgun to everyone, so that they can coordinate with each other easily. Because that is the major problem which Viral and Kumar would agree to it. Inside the studio, the production management can just hop on to each other's chair and, like, tap on the back and say, hey, show me what you've done, and why is it not done, this, that, and so on. But you're not there. You're so far off from each other. When you call, the number is busy. So what do? You just have to wait and wait and wait. So I think Shotgun solved a lot of the customer's problem. And the extended access program, which we had for 3 months, uh, we saw the Shotgun usage going up drastically. We have a eval for 30 days generally, where people sign up for evals and test it for 30 days, and then decide on going ahead or no. This was before the pandemic situation, but during the pandemic thing, the eval shot up, say, about 5 times. You won't believe, in India, I'm talking about only India, we have almost 270 plus independent studios. I'm not talking about the artists, but more than 270 different studios tried Shotgun. And not only tried, they used it to the core, because we could see the logins happening and people actively using it. So it's not just like, hey, let me try it and, they actually did production job, which was a great thing for us. And eventually people, definitely found that to be a very good solution, and they went for it.
Now they're very happy. And also, like, my previous experiences when we used to have, when we used to propose shotgun in their pipeline, people were very happy in their traditional way of sending emails, Excel sheets, and Google Drives, and all these things. But this need made them actually implement shotgun on live projects. As Viral said, everyone was working on the OTT projects, and that became an urgency because OTT went up big time. There was no other films, no other TV shows, nothing coming up. So that was the need, and they had to deliver on time. And I think shotgun really helped the entire industry on managing production to the core. And we didn't see any kind of complaint. People were happy using this tool. At the same time, talking about the other things, like we increased the support system. We also had, we also created a portal for customers called as, knowledge center, resource center, where we had everything in that portal, right from training to support to knowledge to customer success stories to, everything under that Autodesk portfolio was in that page, which was circulated to each and every customers, and I think that did fantastic. So I think Viral and Kumar can add on about the shotgun advantages in case if they have used it.
Oh yeah, I mean, we are completely on it, and I always say this to my team, that it just took a pandemic to make us all productive. So yeah, so I mean, like you rightly said, we're everybody's like, we are all on shotgun. We are all kind of tracking everything in a more disciplined manner, in a more regular manner. So the productivity, like I'm feeling myself, is at its kind of peak right now. But obviously, like, having said all of this, all of the good things, there's obviously a flip side to it. And Chaji, I apologize to kind of get that thing in. That there is obviously a thing about having time off. We are all overworked and overstretched right now, because everybody is accessible. So there's a tendency to kind of push that a bit more and try and get as much as possible out of everybody. And that gets us to another thing. Where is that going to kind of help? Because at the end of the day, productivity is fine. But at the end of the day, we are also we are also looking at artist well-being. And Andrew lightly said, that the work-life balance is something which we are actively looking into right now and trying to solve that issue as well, as in having the off time. Like, okay, this is it. 7:30, we are off, and no more calls after that. So that's something which Kumar, I don't know if you have any thoughts on that.
Oh, I definitely have some thoughts on that. Initially, when we started this work from home, it looked like a stopgap arrangement, right? It thought it's going to be there for a few months, and then we'll slowly start getting back to the studio. And ideally, by now, September, we should all have been back, but it does not look like that way right now. 5 months in, it looks like it's going to take a few more months before we can even think about getting anyone back. So one of the main issues when we work from home is the demarcation between personal and professional hours. When we work from the studio, however late you might work, you might come home at 1 o'clock. But still, when you come home at 1 o'clock, your office time or your studio time is over. This is your personal time. That is really blurred right now, and one has to keep a watch on it. There are definite advantages. Yes, we've all got better at doing home chores, better at washing vessels, and all of that. But it can get quite stressful trying to manage both. Because what's happening right now, the work hours is getting expanded exponentially. There's no end to the work hour. That needs to be regulated, and that's where production really needs to step in to ensure schedules. It's quite tempting. Your system is out there. You can get on and work at any point of time. There's no one stopping you. But schedules, your individual discipline, you need to have a routine which actually suits. And definitely appreciate what Andrew said. That's really needed to have that split. So in a studio, it's easy to spot a team which is not having a work-life balance. They're stretching. It's visually there, and then you can take a corrective action plan. But here it's more of a subtle and a hidden, and that's why communication is critical. Supervisory, production management, all of them need to reach out to ensure there is no burnout. Weekends or when people need break time, I think so that is equally still needs to be respected. You might not be able to go to your favorite holiday spot. That concept might be different, but break is still a break. You need those hours away to come back fresh to create world-class art. And that has to be kept a watch on. And for that, I feel that communication at all levels is key. The personal touch of working in a studio, the team rapport, the studio atmosphere, all that is not there. You're working out of home. It's a different atmosphere altogether, definitely enjoyable in a lot of aspects. But that rapport, we still need to work out how we can actually maintain that. Because that's been the synergy for keeping most of the teams going, the motivation which a lead, a supervisor might be able to inspire an artist to do something really stand out. So it cannot get lost that I'm working from home, I'm doing productivity, but I am working in a very cocooned or detached sphere. Need to ensure that that part of it is taken care of, and that we only have to do.
Yeah, rightly said, Kumar. Actually, there was a survey which was done last month. So there was the same survey which was done 4 months back, when the survey of the acceptance and satisfaction of the work from home was very, very high. But then eventually, once everybody started experiencing, sees the pros and cons of everything, it has now changed. The survey result has actually changed. But there could be a midway. Yeah, initially when we started, we went from an extreme of 100% in studio to 100% in home, right? And that was extremely successful when you're saying the production efficiency became pretty well. But not to forget, it was a complete lockdown and the productivity had to definitely increase, right? But there was a time when we never thought that this is something which is possible. There could be probably a midway. There are a lot of advantages of a varying part of work from home, which is one of thing is flexi hours, right? A lot of us would want to have a flexi hours. We finish our quota, but we also get our share of time to get other stuff done. The flexi hours is one of the thing. We could save a lot of operational cost on real estate. We could save on the traffics. We could do a lot on the pollution side, right? Virtual production, for example, the use case of virtual production had never come up in the making of filmmaking like this, right? So my question to Kumar, you and Viral would be, are you seeing that one is how far do you want the work from home to continue? And when the work from the pandemic is a old story, when that's all gone, do you want to completely come back to studio or want to liberate some options for work from home? And in that case, what are the things which you have identified that this is my biggest bottleneck for work from home? Yeah, this is what we want from technology. If this is achieved from security, from technology, operations, government, whatever it is, what could that be?
Viral, you want to go? At least from my take, I don't see us being back 100% in the near future. I think so. This has actually paved a new way of working. This is definitely a new norm. Nor do I see us completely working from home either. There are definitely benefits, advantages, especially for process-wise, if you was to break it down, or certain show-wise, which would require people to sit together and then work from a studio environment. So I guess it would be a learning from both put together. So what this has shown is, yes, broken some serious myths and barriers about we can only work from a certain space with a certain infrastructure. All that has been broken out. But to keep contingency, because I think so even Shaji, from your side, your BCP is going to look quite different after this whole thing has happened. This has been a learning for all of us, which we never expected. Team's done great, but learnings has to be taken. I would personally see that it's actually a mixed match, and you'll have to see how the situation turns out. But never 100% in the studio or never 100% from home. There has to be a balance of both in case there is any issue of whatever kind in the future, that we don't have to rush to it like what we did this time. We are all better prepared in that way. Challenges wise, infrastructure there's some things which are not in our hands, which we hopefully can find solutions around. Some of the bigger challenges has been power, internet, and these are larger infrastructures which we need to see at as to how whether we can have alternatives, whether as groups we can look to provide better solution to people working from home. So that would be one. And the other, of course, is we always look up to people like Autodesk and Teradici, because even the approach so far has been to how can we have maximum productivity working out of a studio space. I guess now all that R&D, everything is going to get branched out for both sectors.
So, I mean, I agree completely, Kumar. I mean, the only way to go ahead is probably the hybrid way, wherein it has to be a mix. It can't really, at Redefine, we are already kind of, started talking about, having at least the key guys, like supervisors and like some level of, creative guys going in and doing their reviews, So, I mean, it gives us an option to kind of, even if we are out of this, Shaji, at the end of, beginning of next year, or, we still have an option, even from the business point of view, we still have an option to kind of have this, set up as a backup, option, having at least a certain amount of, artist, skill set working from home, and it also kind of opens up another, facility, as in having people from all around the world, coming and working on your show, completely, which is a brilliant, I think, option for us to kind of have access to that, because earlier we never even thought about it, because of data issues, privacy, copyright issues, we couldn't really, think about sending our EXRs across, we don't know. That option is also kind of open now. So I think moving forward, I think once we are out of pandemic, these things, these experiences which we've got right now will be utilized to the fullest once we are out of it, is what my opinion.
And Viral, if you have to challenge somebody in technology, okay, this is the for me, this is the biggest.
Sorry, I couldn't. Could you just repeat that question? There was some.
Yeah. So I'm saying, if you want to put up a big challenge to a technology, anybody in technology or infrastructure, this is my biggest bottleneck or stopgap for enabling work from home, or making that work.
Well, honestly, I mean, right now there's no bottleneck. Apart from what Kumar just spoke about, as far as the infrastructure is concerned, that's I think the biggest bottleneck. We at Redefine have tried and facilitated a lot of issues. We try to solve a lot of issues as far as bandwidth is concerned. We've sent them dongles, we've sent them data packages. We've done everything. But I mean, like Andrew rightly said and Kumar rightly said, it's limited to the network. At the end of the day, so that's the only bottleneck which we face as of today. But apart from that, I don't really see any bottleneck.
Great, good to know. Andrew, it would be great. I'm pretty sure with all this implementation TerraDC had been doing, you would also have a large roadmap for a lot of improvements. So can we know something about, if it's shareable, can we know something what's coming up in the TerraDC roadmap and what is something which we should look forward to?
No, absolutely. And just to firstly concur with what you said there, is I think, if we look at the way that people are working from home, I think the new normal will be, people going back to the office part-time, maybe going back in team bubbles to keep that sort of interactivity going on. I think what will be interesting as we move forward is the next generation of workers coming up. They're almost used to being isolated anyway. I mean, if I look at my children, they're just on TikTok or they're on Instagram. They don't ever meet their friends. Well, they do. They meet them every day. So I think the next generation workers will be more happier working from home than we are as oldies, because we're used to going out and meeting people and socializing. But talking about TerraDC and moving forward, I think some of the areas that we're accelerating on is around more around security. So for us, obviously, we are delivering just the pixels, so no data is leaving, as I mentioned earlier, and everything's encrypted. But that still doesn't, when you're in a studio, you can control what people are doing with the screen in front of them. So one of the things we're looking at is potentially looking at doing some form of watermarking. So even if somebody does take the hero shot, or there's somebody videoing what's going on the screen, then you will at least know where that's come from. So that's certainly something that we've seen a lot of demand for, and something that we're absolutely working on. In line with that is the whole sort of over-the-shoulder collaboration. So again, working on that to allow more sort of, the team leader or the director to be able to see what's actually going on with the artist at a point, and they can make comment. Some other stuff purely from a technical point of view that is being driven by the market. So things like 10-bit color, the support for moving away from just supporting stereo to supporting 5.1, etc. Again, driving more around. And again, I think this is an interesting thing. It's as we catch up or becoming more efficient on how we do our encoding and decoding. So we have just launched the ability to not only just do CPU encoding, but offloading it to the GPU as well, and supporting NVIDIA's NVENC. And that allows us to do some stuff. But then, of course, what we're seeing is 4K content and then 8K content and stuff at 120 frames per second. And then we're looking at VR and all that sort of stuff. As these processes and this comes into play, then the bandwidth requirement again just keeps exponentially growing with the content. So we're always trying to keep up with that. And obviously continue to support, the latest Wacom devices that are coming out again because they are super susceptible to latency. So again, it's just improving that. So it's just always ensuring that our technology, hopefully, is leading the way forward to ensure, and I think again, going back to a switch that we've seen, and certainly the pandemic has delivered this, is that 6 months ago it was everybody working in the office, the odd artist working in. Coming in externally. Now it's completely the other way around. I think we'll go back to a bit more of an equilibrium where it might be 50-50. But again, just improving how artists can connect remotely. So we're doing a lot of work around our broker and how we work from that perspective as well. And again, looking at things like time management. And is there a way that we can say, do you know what, Mr. Artist, you've been working for 12 hours today. You need to take a break. And that's just interacting with, perhaps move to the cloud as well. So we're seeing more of that as well. So yeah, lots of things going on that the pandemic really has accelerated.
That's interesting. We'll wait for the watermark thing, what we have, and definitely if there's something to collaborate around that, I think that's a big breakthrough. Samir, we have been speaking about some of the advanced futures or advanced roadmap which Autodesk is planning around widely. Do you want to share up with this group so everybody's aware?
It's a good thing that we have some good news to share. But before that, I would just want to also mention that we've been in a very drastic change, complete in the business change, because we always Autodesk in the M&E space was also always known for Max and Maya, Max software, Maya soft, like a software company. But slowly we've moved to a solutions company. Like we just don't want to be stuck to a software company. And how we are doing this is because we know that the customer requirement is not just one tool. It's various other things which go hand in hand. So we created a bundle, first of all, which we call it as the collection, where we have all these big softwares like Max, Maya, Recap, Motion Builder, and all. And we were slightly weaker on the rendering side, and hence we acquired the most industry standard and well-known renderer, which is Arnold, and we bundled into Maya with no cost. Okay, so how it helps the customer is they don't have to additionally invest on more and more tools like third-party plugins and so on. We know that people had challenges in the FX pipeline, so they used to be depending on the third-party software. So we recoded Bifrost and put it back inside Maya, again at no additional cost. So all these things have been worked upon from the past many years. And what we did now is on Shotgun, as we knew that it became more and more popular during the pandemic thing. People were eager to have Shotgun in their pipeline, and when we knew that there was little hesitancy on the cost factor, we publicly had a global huge discount on the product so that anyone who wants to, and we all know that during pandemic, during this situation, they have a lot of budget constraints, so business must have gone down, and we didn't want them to go have more losses because of something which we cannot help them with. So we added all these things. And lately what we did is we also wanted to help a lot of independent artists, like smaller studios, because that people use our Autodesk products in different industries, but in M&E we serve customers from a small, from a 1 or 2 seater studio to 1,000, 1,500, 2,000, 7,000 studios. all. So they're all our customers. But then eventually the smaller ones wants to grow, but then they have challenges on the prices, software price, they cannot afford and all. And hence we launched the indie version of Max and Maya. So this is primarily for freelancers or an individual who wants to have, want to do projects, but they don't actually go and buy products thinking that it's a big cost for them, but suffer when it comes to support, solutions, and so on. So we introduced indie version on August 7th, which is almost 1/10 of the cost of a commercial license which a bigger studio has. But this is only for a single user. It's only for that one person who wants to run a smaller business and leverage the support from Autodesk and eventually grow and have a bigger business and so on. So that's something which we did, and we're very happy about. And I just wanted to I'll just quickly share the screen where a lot of people are still not aware of, and I just wanted to tell that this is the indie version of 3ds Max and Maya, primarily for independent artists. And anyone who wants to know more about this can just Google 3ds Max indie Maya indie, can go to the landing page, and they can just change the country where they'll get all the details about it. And of course, the another help is Shotgun. As I said, it's way popular now, and people who want to try out Shotgun can try out free trial for 30 days now. And any kind of support needed, any kind of workflow needed, Autodesk is there to help. And if they want to just go into this URL like www.shotgunsoftware.com/trial, they will land up to this page where they can just leverage the trial version of Shotgun, and we have the support portal resources, all these available in this page as well. And people can also see my email ID in case if they want to get in touch with me for any kind of support and help. I'll be like more than happy with that.
That is helpful. Thanks, Sumit. And we hope the discount program remains forever, so we can always leverage it anytime.
Yeah.
We have some questions coming in from the audience, if we can take that out. So
Sure.
One of the questions could be relevant to you, Sumit. Studios were not very keen earlier adapting to cloud. Do you see that changing now?
Oh, wow. You'll be surprised to see this because Shotgun was the only cloud-based solution we had. And I mean, it's still there. When we used to talk to the customers about having Shotgun prior to the pandemic, the last question, like, after everyone is happy and they want to implement, they were like, does it need internet? They're like, yes. And they were like, sorry, we can't have internet in our facility because we are very, we have issues in terms of privacy and all that stuff. But look at the time today, we are nothing without internet, right? So that's a must. So yes, it has changed completely now. We have seen customers telling us that, hey, I know it needs internet and my data will be on the cloud, but we also trust Autodesk, and the server which Autodesk uses is AWS servers, which is much more trusted. So and we have to live with the cloud environment now, and we have to adapt it. So there's no other way. So yes, it has become more popular, and people have started seeing cloud services positively than what it used to be the case before.
That's it. Andrew, was that the same for you? Was that generally a concern from many of the studios to go for the PCOA solution?
Yeah, I think the cloud and moving to the cloud has been an interesting thing in the sense that from our perspective, what we're now seeing is people using it very much in a hybrid, that it doesn't have to be one size fits all. So there are certain, there may be certain workloads that are better suited to the cloud. I think there's always been, to be fair, I think there's always been a distrust of the cloud. But I think that's because people just don't like change. And one thing that a global health scare can do and a pandemic can do is it can force people to change, and then they sort of go, oh, actually this is quite good. I think one of the things that's always probably stopped people from the cloud from a studio point of view is the the cost comparison between, let's say, buying a workstation on-prem and the cost of that workstation in the cloud. And if you look at it paper, side by side, on-prem always comes out better. However, what you have to look at, you have to have a far bigger holistic view of what other improvements in production can we bring in, what time savings can we make, what power reductions. And what we are seeing certainly is that, and that may the pandemic may have slightly changed that. We were starting to see people move to the cloud because of limitations around office space, power consumption, air conditioning, all those lovely bits and bobs. What the pandemic has done is it made people realize, well, I don't need to be in the office. How do I not be in the office? I can go to the cloud. The data centers in the cloud are far more robust and tested than I would probably say any individual data center within any organization, because they have to be. And from a Teradici point of view, as I've mentioned a couple of times, is that all we're transmitting from the cloud provider or the private data center is just the pixels. So no data is leaving that data center. So it's an extremely secure way of working. And we also have seen, I think, the likes of AWS, Azure, and GCP adapt their technology very quickly to meet the demands that people are putting on it today. And just the ability to spin up a workstation within, 2 minutes, and then spin it back down again when you don't need it. I think people are realizing, this is the way that we have to work moving forward.
Great, thank you. We have time for one more question maybe. The other question is, do you think virtual production will become an integral part of filmmaking? Viral, do you want to take that up?
Yeah, I mean, it's a big topic, honestly, virtual production. See, I mean, it's definitely a great tool for the DOPs and the directors to have at the moment. I mean, with the increasing demand of having lesser footprint, as far as shooting sets are concerned, there's definitely a lot of potential in kind of using the technology. But I think we're too soon in the day as far as the country is concerned, because there's a lot of R&D and there's a lot of learning which all of us need to go through as far as managing virtual production is concerned. Obviously, there are issues such as price. I mean, the producers, are they willing to spend that kind of money? And I think I always say this, that we are in a very interesting phase, which was there a couple of years back, wherein we were all moving from film to digital, and there was a lot of apprehension as far as using the new tech was concerned. I think we are in a similar phase right now. We are all going through it. We are all seeing demos. We're having DOPs coming in. We are having directors coming. We're having these presentations internally as well, because we also plan to get into it. And there's a lot of excitement around it. But I think if it's going to be a part of the norm, it's too early for us to even judge that, because we only hope that it's not a wave, and because there is a lot of potential if it's used in the correct manner. If it's because it solves a lot of issues as far as interactive lights are concerned. Lighting up the characters. Most of the time, the directors have an issue, shooting actors against complete green screens, and so do the actors. They are not very comfortable, because it's only the visual effects supervisor and the director probably who has the complete vision of what's going to come in place of the green screen. I think the actors, the way they would perform, all of that makes a difference. So yeah, I mean, it's very promising, but I feel it's too early for us to comment that if it's going to be a part of the regular shooting now.
Okay, great. Okay. We got 4 minutes left. Do you all want to spend 1 minute with a closing comment? Viral, do you want to go first?
Yeah, I mean, I think Kumar, you want to talk about the closing bit on work from home environment?
Sure. It's been an overwhelming success so far, and I think so that's why we are all here in the panel today. Otherwise, we would be discussing something else. Everyone has done their bit to make this work, but we have still a long way to go. Initial part successful, fantastic. Productivity has been great, but how to sustain this, that has to be the renewed focus right now. How do we space ourselves, give us that so that we don't get burnt out and keep this productivity going up? So far, it's been amazing.
That's good to know. Great. Thank you. So if I can sum it all for everything, I think the best part of this panel was everybody had an agreement of the same thing. All of us during the pandemic made our operations 100% running from work from home. And I think all of us have identified what are the things which works fine, what are the things which may need an improvement, and we have that points in hand. And it's good to know that our technology partners are all working towards to already they had provided a lot of solutions, but they're not stopping there. They're working on the next gen project to support there. And all of us are seeing a world distributed workflow and probably a hybrid of work from studio and work from anywhere. So let's probably not name it as work from home, but we all want to be out in the roads and hills. So let's do work from studio and work from anywhere. So that's that. So thank you very much, Andrew, Sumit, Kumar, and Viral. I think it was a great time having you on here. I'm sure the audience would have had a great time hearing from all of you. Please do take care, and we all hope to see you in person somewhere in a live session next time.
Sure.
Thank you, Shaji. Stay safe, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Sanjeev. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you, Shaji, for moderating the session. Thank you, panelists, for a very interesting and insightful discussion.